Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line, talking about the remarkable events of the day. The resignation of Mayor Megan Barry. Now David Briley is the Metro Nashville mayor. We have with us Phil Williams, chief investigative reporter. We're streaming this live on our Facebook page. A couple of comments. We have a lot of comments. KK said she did not apologize for stealing from taxpayers. Bart Lunn says, what about the pension and retirement? Did they forfeit those? What do you know about the pension and retirement?
And again, let's go back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. These were not full-out guilty pleas. These were conditional guilty pleas, meaning if after 3 years of probation, they behaved themselves, it's as if these guilty pleas never occurred. So any laws that might apply to convicted felons losing their pensions do not apply in this situation. Now, we heard from the Metro Employee Benefit Board today that they will be reviewing whether Sergeant Forrest's overtime claims were excessive, and that could affect how much he gets in his pension, and they may have a meeting at a future date to look at that situation. But because of these guilty pleas being handled the way they were, they will not automatically lose any pensions.
Did you see the statement from Chief Anderson about Rob Forrest? That was a brutal statement.
Yeah, and I briefly saw it, but as I recall, he essentially accused him of a betrayal.
A betrayal. Said he brought something about disdain and said, I share that disdain. So it was a brutal statement there from the police chief to Rob Forrest, who's served for 31 years, but will be remembered probably for this. Let's go to Terry. Hello, Terry.
Hi, good evening. I know you have a lot of other people, so I'm just going to make this quick as I can. I want to ask a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it, and then I'll make a statement.
Okay.
First of all, how many men are wiping their bra of sweat tonight, thinking, oh my God, it could have been me, because they're doing the same thing? And I want to make this statement that women are more harshly treated when they have been either suspected or actually confirmed to have engaged in bad behavior. And I would like to say to all those people out there, especially the women, who will no doubt call in and criticize the mayor, that they should be standing behind the mayor and remember that if it was a man, he would not have suffered the same indignities and probably would have kept his job. For a good example is the guy in the White House.
All right, well, let's talk about that. I appreciate your call. Thank you, Terry. Several man-on-the-street type interviews that I saw during the course of our coverage today. There were those who said men have had affairs forever and ever, and they haven't had to resign like this. I think people would say the difference here is that there was some taxpayer money involved, but certainly you're going to hear what Terry said a lot.
And if you go back to the 1980s, we had another mayor, Bill Boner, who had an affair with his head of security. It was scandalous. Obviously that was another time, but he was not forced to resign as a result of that.
That was his head of security?
One of his relationships was with his head of security.
Yeah, he was on the Donahue show. He made us a laughing stock.
Yeah, that was because of a relationship with another person, but he also had a relationship with the head of his security detail.
Well, that plays into Terry's comment there. Let's go to Linda. Hello, Linda.
Yes, I think someone called in another question similar to mine. It's about the sergeant's retirement. Do they base the retirement on the last few years of work? And if so, he shouldn't be getting that $7,000 a month, should he? Since some of his work was at work.
This is going to be reviewed, right? Pension board's going to look at it.
It is being reviewed. He was making, again, to kind of reiterate some of our investigative reporting, under former Mayor Carl Dean, he was pulling in between $30,000 and $35,000 a year in overtime. During the first year of Mayor Barry's administration, that jumped up to almost $60,000. In the second year, that was more than $75,000. So certainly that had an impact on his expected retirement benefit, and we see him here after or on his way to booking today. But the Metro Employee Benefit Board is going to be taking a look at that, we're told, and trying to determine whether his pension ought to be adjusted in some way.
It's calculated based on your highest years of earning.
Exactly.
So these last couple of years would very likely have been his highest years of earning.
As we reported, in fiscal year 2017, he was the second highest paid person in the Metro Police Department, second only to the chief.
Okay, let's go to Roberta. Hello, Roberta.
Yes, if he took pictures without her knowledge, then I guess she did not have the expectation of privacy. I had a couple other things to ask about. In other words, if she didn't have that, if she had the expectation of privacy, then it would be a crime, wouldn't it?
So that is what the mayor said in a statement when those pictures were announced. They were taken without my knowledge, without my consent. We didn't get into that, right? That's not part of all of this.
And again, there's no way for us to say, but those photos were taken in Washington. So if there is a law against unauthorized photography in the District of Columbia, it would be up to former Mayor Megan Barry to file a complaint. And as far as we know, that has not happened.
This $45,000 that Sergeant Forrest must repay, that again has to do with, I guess they're saying he put down for overtime when he shouldn't have put down for overtime.
Right.
He wasn't working during that time.
And essentially, according to the DA's office, the way they came up with that number, every member of her security detail had their overtime increase when she came into office because she was more active. They looked at, by that same standard, how much his overtime would have increased by that same percentage. And whatever was over that percentage was how they came up with the $45,000.
Let's go to Michael. Hello, Michael. Michael, are you there? Go right ahead.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Phil, for the coverage. I'm curious. There's a book floating around Nashville right now about the private lifestyle of the first Metro Mayor of Nashville, Tennessee. And his private lifestyle wasn't that great. It seems kind of ironic to me that here we are decades later and we're right back in the same situation.
So I think Michael's talking about Beverly Briley.
That was the story you did.
Yes, I did. It was a book called Murder in Music City. That book doesn't have anything to do with David Briley, just to be clear. It's Beverly Briley is the grandfather and is known for having number one, put together Metro government. He was kind of a brilliant leader who pushed Metro government and was the mayor of Nashville for 2 terms. He also had some personal demons and problems, and this book explores a murder in Nashville and all of that. But today, is about David Briley being sworn in, and that didn't come up.
And we should note that David Briley has a very good reputation here in the city of Nashville. Nothing like the stories, floating around about his grandfather.
Absolutely. Let's go to Celeste. Hello, Celeste.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
You all have tied up the news all day about the personal life of Mayor Megan Barry. And I think this is just a political witch hunt that has occurred, because if you took a poll or a survey or an investigation of those that are currently in status positions or in office, you will find that what she came forward and voluntarily admitted to doing is in everyone's life. This is nothing new. I don't think it's fair to expose her personal life on national TV. Yes, she used funds for this. It has been stated she's paid those funds back. Now, this is not the first time this has happened to a mayor in Tennessee. But the same conviction was not given to that mayor that they've given to her. And with everything that's going on in the news media today, with the president of the country, why is this so important?
All right, well, let's tackle that. I appreciate your call. You're the second person to bring up that kind of an issue. Obviously, today you have the mayor of our city resigning. She did so on her own. She decided to resign, and we covered that all day long as we should. Now, this other question of is she somehow being treated differently? That's a difficult question. I think it's worth exploring. But again, the issue here is that there was this taxpayer money used.
Right, and that has been our focus from the very beginning. It was not about the relationship. It was how did this relationship affect taxpayers? And so what we witnessed today was really an unprecedented moment when the mayor of Nashville walked into a courtroom and pleaded guilty to a Class C felony for stealing taxpayer money. She paid it back as a part of that plea bargain. So our coverage, extensive coverage today, has not been about the affair. Our coverage has been about this unprecedented moment of a Nashville mayor pleading guilty to a felony, resigning from office, and then this transition of power to a new mayor. That's a big story, no matter your political persuasion.
And I wondered if she would try and fight it. She was trying to fight it.
She was.
And there were all kinds of rumors, right? They were floating around. Well, this is going to come down something last week, or this is going to come down on this day or that day. Something, it finally happened today. But could she have fought it if she wanted to? Could the DA have indicted her? And then she said, you know what, I'm not guilty, I'm going to fight this. And then you're going to have this circus going on where you have the mayor under indictment trying to run the city.
And facing what undoubtedly would have been some very embarrassing revelations.
And that's what was avoided. How would you describe the relationship between the mayor and the district attorney?
I think tense would be a nice word for it. They are, I can speak for what I've heard from her team. Her team was suspicious of his motives. They suggested, publicly that he should have recused himself. And we saw today when she went into that courtroom and entered that guilty plea, General Glenn Funk was at the podium giving a summary of the case, and there was just this sideward glance at him that seemed to tell a big story about her attitude toward the district attorney.
In fact, her attorney asked that he recuse himself. She asked that he recuse himself from this case.
Right.
And that kind of speaks to there's certainly tension.
And when that TBI affidavit was made public, with the embarrassing details about possible nude photos, she really, came out and suggested that that was a political hit designed to embarrass her politically. So there is no love lost between Megan Barry and Glenn Funk.
All right, I don't know how much you know or can say here. What would the political reason be for him wanting to do that? Do we know? That is what she said. She said, recuse yourself. I think she said there was something to do about the funding of the department, but clearly she was uncomfortable with him leading this investigation.
And that would be speculation on my part, and probably should not go there, but suffice it to say, her team was suspicious.
All right, let's take a break. We will continue to take your comments on our Facebook page. We're streaming this live. I'll read some of those comments in a moment. Also, call in. There's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. Take a break. Be back right after this.